Howdy, heretics, and welcome to the JW broadcasting from May. And I have some evil twins here. Hello.
Hello.
So that's Jake from AltWordly and Lala.
Hello.
This is the first time you show your face?
It is.
Ever
Cool.
to anyone, by the way. You've never showed your face anywhere before?
I mean, like, obviously, you and other people from the server have saved me, but this is the first channel appearance I've made with my face. So,
Okay. I was just making sure that like you haven't just like worn a bag over your head for your entire life up until right now.
So what I've done here, I've taken the broadcast, cut it up in pieces. So I play a clip and we can comment on it and you can talk as much as possible. And sometimes when I want to emphasize something, I play it twice. So emphasize the word. So just let's play the first clip.
Okay.
Welcome. Here are a few highlights of this month's program. During the COVID-19 pandemic, some of Jehovah's people suffered heartbreaking losses. We'll see how Jehovah's love triumphed over tragedy. We cherish the rich diversity of our global brotherhood, but could our local culture somehow influence our thinking and undermine our precious unity? And our new music video reminds us that unity not only makes us joyful, but it makes us strong. This is JW Broadcasting for May 2022.
Yes.
Good.
Are you looking forward to the broadcasting?
You've whet my appetite, brother goat-like personality.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to it at all. I'm already triggered, but you know.
if when you watch this and know some things about Ukraine, you see there's like reference to Ukraine all the time, more than an English speaking person would see. You know, the clothing on the convention, people there were Ukrainian. There's a lot of Ukrainian things. And it is like, be united, don't hate other nations, be united, don't hate other nations, be united. It's very much to the Ukrainians, a little underbuilt there.
But also, like, don't support Ukraine. Like, don't show your support because that's kind of taking a side in a political conflict.
Well, obviously.
Only support Ukrainians that are Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's right. Your
that's
fellow
what
brother.
they call unity.
Screw
It's
the rest.
What they're saying. Imagine if you like Liverpool, you know, a football team, and you say, well, we are the only supporters that are united. Other supporters fight among themselves about what is the best football team. But Liverpool's supporters, we never disagree about anything.
Now, Manchester United was right there, and you chose Liverpool.
I don't like football.
I don't either.
Talk about something.
I was going to pretend to be cool and know about soccer, but I just know some of the team names.
Yeah.
The theme of this year's regional convention is Pursue Peace. Here's a preview of the program.
We each face trials that can rob us of peace.
Oh, he's looking right at me.
Illness, economic problems, our own weaknesses, damaged relationships. What threatens your peace? At the 2022 Pursue Peace Convention of Jehovah's Witnesses, you will discover how you can find real, lasting peace in your life right now.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Our convention theme is so timely. The world is full of conflict and anguish. People long for peace, and they long for unity, which is the focus of this month's broadcast. Our theme is Stand Together as One United People. Let me begin with a question. Where do you keep your wallet?
What a way to cut it off. Now,
Yeah.
I have some questions. Yeah, go, Lala. I think you raised your hand first.
It absolutely killed me when there was the sign being held that says, love each other, remain united, something along those lines, even if you believe different things.
Yeah.
That's the absolute opposite of everything that witnesses stand for. I don't understand.
Yeah, but these were apostates. These were apostates, or me protesting when we were in Melbourne. So that's the whole point. I can only use their propaganda for criticism. So I showed points from the apostates from a convention.
Gotcha.
Where our
Okay.
signs
All
said
right.
literally the opposite.
Yeah, I suspect.
Did you think
that there was some
you
footage
thought we
of-
were witnesses?
I was seeing the ghosts. And I was confused.
Yeah, you got me, actually. I did think, oh, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, there was like, I thought that your apostate sign was a witness sign. This is the deceptive editing that Watchtower talks about, don't we?
I never thought about that possibility that someone might think the apostates were witnesses when they watched that clip.
I'm just gonna go over here now.
One thing I did notice that was kind of interesting. Wait, but now I don't know what's real. Okay, in that montage, when it showed Gary Bro, was that something that you added in?
No.
Okay, because it looks like him from the Pillowgate videos.
Yeah. Obviously, that was me editing him.
Okay, I was like, wow, are they going to show the Pillowgate segment like at the convention?
Okay, that was a joke. Because when they do this convention thing, they use a lot of stock footage.
Yeah,
so you can get copyright problem because of the stock, and also you should use. There should be criticism. You should just show it. So when they spoke about your weakness, I took a picture from
that. Was your editing is just so convincing. I was like, wow,
it was so good. I was just completely confused, but it's not difficult to confuse me.
No, but so when they spoke about you need money, you add Stephen Lett. When they talk about personal weakness, you show the masturbation video from what do you call it, Pillowgate. If you've never seen the Pillowgate video, pause this video, go and see the Pillowgate video, because it's yeah, I'm not a good friend with Lloyd, but his videos is better than mine when we talk about the Pillowgate videos. So
also,
when you watch this one,
the Pillowgate videos are available on YouTube without having to have that commentary as well. You can find that. So
yeah,
you don't have to go to he who shall not be named.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really care so much about that. But the point is, watch the Pillowgate video if you didn't get the reference. So when he say, "Where is your wallet?" he compares the Jehovah Witness unity with your wallet. You should safeguard it because Satan wants to steal your wallet.
I prefer to keep my wallet very far from Watchtower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like ice cream, so ice cream wins.
Yeah, but how do Watchtower define unity? They say they have a unique unity.
Yes.
And everyone else disagree with them because they define every other person on the planet as group B, and we're group A, and they disagree with each other.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like it's really us v them, but them is like the entire rest of the world, even though like there is no unified Satan's world. Like people like us who are out in the world go like, we have all sorts of opposing views, but we're all just lumped in as them. So yeah, it's true.
We dare to have our own thoughts.
Yeah, you're not supposed to have that. And you also, you're supposed to have your own culture because they say so. And then over and over again, they say you should shrink your culture. You should abandon your culture. And we learn what I see how they edit where they use a word and then they change the video. So they say, you see, I learned what Jehovah likes. And you see, when they say what Jehovah likes, that's when they put on theocratic clothing. So it's like very
right.
Embrace your culture as long as it's whitewashed and Watchtower approves.
Yeah. So let's see her.
Make no mistake, The devil is looking for an opportunity to steal our unity from us. Think about how unique our unity is. Unlike other religious organizations, we're not divided into sub-denominations. We don't have Northern Jehovah's Witnesses, Orthodox Jehovah's Witnesses, or Reformed Jehovah's Witnesses. As the Apostle Paul expressed it, we are united in the same mind and in the same line of thought. We are also united internationally. We don't fight against one another in the wars that divide nations. And we are united racially. Many times, witnesses have risked their lives to protect their fellow Christians of another race who were being threatened or persecuted because of their racial or ethnic background. We are also united in our purpose. For example, no matter where we live, we all preach the same good news, and we all receive the same weekly spiritual instruction. Can you find this unity out in the world? Look around. People are divided.
All right, this might be the cultiest cult thing I've ever seen. This cult.
This is a very bad clip. This is no good. Now, you don't want us to talk over the clips, right? Just for future reference?
No, not over the clips.
Okay.
But when they say like Jehovah Witnesses have risked their life, well, doesn't people? So okay, I like Ukraine. I think I'm impressed with them, so I'm unapologetically supporting Ukraine. But that's not the point. If a person in Ukraine defends his country, he's willing to risk his life for other people. You know,
yeah,
you don't have to agree
with
Ukraine, or it's just a fact. So how can they say that when Jehovah Witness risk a life for a fellow Jehovah Witness, that this is something unique when he talks about war? That's also someone risking life to defend a fellow human being.
Well, I
so
also
how can
just
they say
don't
it's
know what
unique?
they're talking about. I don't know what they mean by that, because like they're very like just a couple weeks ago in the meeting, they played that clip of like the civil rights movement and how witnesses didn't get involved with that. And that was very specifically not fighting for people of another race. Like they're very against that. So I would love to know what example they're referring to where people in the Watchtower have risked their lives for people of a different race.
Rwanda, they spoke about people hiding other Jehovah Witnesses, but a lot of people did that probably. And also
said,
in Israel, Palestinians allowing Jehovah Witnesses coming for tea and coffee, or maybe even stay the night. That's been used as examples. They're probably real.
I feel like this was extra infantilizing, like his tone. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but I feel like Mark Sanderson's usually pretty chill, but it seemed like he was really going in hard with the, like, where else can you find this in the world, little kids? You can't find this anywhere. Like he really was like talking
It's demeaning. It's literally demeaning. The tone that they use to talk to everybody nowadays. And the only thing that you ever gather from these videos, it's not about what somebody's race is. It's not about anything. If you are a Jehovah's Witness and you're giving your money to Watchtower, then we're there for you. That's what matters.
Yeah, it's a lot about Ukraine. They mention Ukraine. They get like honorable mentionings all the time if you know something about Ukraine and watch it. So it's like, I think it's kind of showing sympathy. Maybe it's real, or maybe it's just to kind of level up with them, to get them calm down. And then in the end, it's a lot about like how the governing body always taking care of military conflicts. We've been traveling around in an aeroplane, and sometimes we went to Africa and we took a bullet for you, and sometimes we went to South America and we took a bullet for you. And the governing body has always been the one solving all the military conflicts, and just trust in us. They don't say that out loud, but you get it later.
The imagery of like, they're talking about how united witnesses are, and then they show the contrast of like the soldiers and stuff, but you know, their witnesses aren't the only pacifist organization. There's lots of people who refuse to go to war and don't agree with fighting. There are lots of unified things, but like when they talk about unity, the thing that always strikes me is it's possible for a group to be unified around something harmful. Like unity is not a virtue in and of itself. There are people who are unified. You know, the Nazi Party was quite unified around their ideals, but that was not good.
Yeah, and I also like how he says that they don't have any branches that have broken off of them. I'm like, oh, well, like Seventh-day Adventists, the Bible students are still around to my knowledge.
Yes, they are.
Great point. Thank you for reminding me about that. That was a crazy point that they made. It's like, well, they do exist, but you just, you know, you shun them, so you don't know about them.
We refuse to acknowledge them, so.
Yeah.
You heard about Australian Jesus?
Australian Jesus?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a Jehovah Witness elder. Disfellowship now, but that would constitute a Reformed Jehovah Witness, I guess.
I guess so.
I'm gonna have to look up Australian Jesus.
Yeah, we have a Norwegian Jesus also.
You have a Norwegian.
And the funny thing is that I know him, and he's a goat farmer. And him, he don't believe me, but I told him that God Himself told me that Jesus should have an interview on my channel.
I agree.
We can't argue with that.
Is he called Norwezus?
Nah, I don't know. He's a goat farmer. He makes great cheese.
Jake, go to pun jail.
Yeah, let's see her.
Can you find this unity out in the world? Look around.
Yeah, so my point with that little clip is...
I thought I had more time to take my headphones off.
I have to say, I found it.
To look around?
No, blindfolds on, always. You're not allowed to look around for anything. If you think you have a shred of happiness out in the world, that's just Satan. So, like, you can't have that. You can't be worshiping Satan now, can we?
No, we said there's nothing to see, and then we say look around, and it's a disfellowshipping offense to do.
Yes, very much so.
What a contrast that is with Jehovah's worshipers. We stand together as one united people. Why, though, do we each need to guard and protect our unity? Can't we safely assume that Jehovah will protect it and that He will see to it that our unity is preserved? Not entirely. It happened in the first century congregation in Corinth. To them, Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 11, "There are dissensions among you." What kind of dissensions? Some said, "I belong to Peter." Others said, "I belong to Paul." And still others said, "I belong to Apollos." Paul felt compelled to ask at 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 13, "Is the Christ divided?" What a reproach on Jehovah's name and on, "Is the Christ divided?" What a reproach on Jehovah's name and on true worship.
Yes. So obviously I like the thing that what a reproach on Jehovah's name, because if division of the Christ would be a reproach on Jehovah's name, there is a division on the Christ. Does that mean that God is responsible for all the false religion? It's kind of a circular argument.
Yeah, it's always kind of weird when they bring up a pretty legitimate argument against God's existence, and then they're just like, no, because like he brings like now, couldn't God just keep us unified? No, and it's like, oh, okay,
that perfectly like reasonable argument. No, absolutely not.
I also have seen the Christ divided. It's called the memorial. We pass around pieces of its flesh.
Hey.
The best thing since sliced Christ. I don't know. I'm just
I'm
here
going
to
to come
throw
to
out
that later
the
because
occasional
Jehovah
one.
Witnesses are, if you don't know this, Jehovah Witnesses are divided in two groups. There are two faiths. You can go to heaven or you can stay on earth.
That's
so that
true.
is very much a division. But Jehovah Witnesses don't see it as a division because it's always put in a context of non-division. I'll show you that later. But
That's a good point. Yeah, that like there's literally a division between, you know, the great crowd and the other sheep, or no, the great crowd of other sheep and the anointed. I don't know what the anointed are.
But if division would bring reproach to Jehovah's name, why would it bring reproach on Jehovah's name unless it's Jehovah's fault? Because it's in the Bible that it were meant to happen. It would happen.
Yeah, because isn't saying that something brings reproach upon your name like it's making me look bad?
Yeah.
So yeah.
But
they're
that would
making
only make Jehovah look bad if it was his fault.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe it should make him look bad if the things are bad.
Yeah.
Maybe God's just dropping the ball.
Spitting
I
facts.
saw somebody in the comments say, "Is this the simplified edition of this broadcast?" And that's what it feels like. It feels like really like painfully simple wording to the point where it doesn't even sound like a real person talking.
How many times do you think
Infantilizing,
he
as you
said
said.
unity? How many times do you think he said unity so far?
Too many.
A lot.
God.
Someone should
Too
be keeping
many.
count.
Do we get a unity counter in the chat?
Don't take a shot every time he says unity because he'll be dead by the end of the stream.
Yeah.
Alcohol poisoning.
Let's see here. He spoke like for 1 minute
By
about
failing to
bullets.
guard their unity, those early disciples were making Christianity look like just another religion. Could something like that happen in a congregation today? It could happen if individuals cared more about their own personal preferences, conveniences, and opinions than they do about the unity of Jehovah's people. Selfishness is not the fruitage of Jehovah's Spirit. Rather, it reflects the spirit of the world. The world is aggressively promoting the view that you should put yourself first. But we have learned Jehovah's view.
And Jehovah's view is that you should put Jehovah first, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's right.
That's very Jehovah-ly, correct.
Jehovah.
You shouldn't put yourself first. You should follow Jehovah's example and put Jehovah first. How do I do that? It's a great self-contradictory reason. You should not put yourself first. You should follow Jehovah's example and put Jehovah
Who puts himself first? Yeah.
Yeah, Jehovah's example, which is,
Exactly.
you know, the organization.
He's very
It's kind of that
self-important.
argument proved that God. That argument by itself proved that God isn't real.
That's really good.
And you can put Jehovah first by putting the governing body first. Remember that.
That's right. By obeying the men that he has appointed. I'm really frustrated by him saying, you know, we wouldn't want to look like just another religion, because whenever Watchtower goes to court, that's the exact argument that they use. Like they use the argumentation that like, why are you treating us like we're some kind of cult? We're just like every other religion. We do X, Y, and Z, and we deserve the same rights as. So like, you know, like clergy penitent privilege, even though witnesses claim not to have a clergy and all these things, like they want to be viewed as just another religion when it suits them. But to their members, you know, they want to paint themselves as something special and nothing like any other religion.
They are
I
like other
remember in
religions.
Stockholm in courts, I heard them say, you know, talking to the judge, and they say, it's important to remember that Jehovah Witnesses are not special in any way. They're exactly like every other religion.
I know other
Yeah.
religions like them. They're all cults.
Yeah, but when you want to, if you say that, oh, I'm better than everyone, they might think, oh, then you can keep you to a higher standard. So when it came to all legal things, and reason why you're court is not because you're persecuted, because there's a reason to believe you had done something illegal. In this case, they had. And You want no, please. You want to lower the standard like everyone else. You don't.
He also talked about like personal preferences and conveniences equating to selfishness. I was trying to write down what he was saying, and I don't really know the exact point that he was trying to make, other than like even just having and vocalizing a personal preference is selfishness. Like, in advocating for yourself is selfish. And he also like reasserts this thing of like the world wants you to put yourself first. But that's not true. I don't ever hear people say that like you got to be selfish and put yourself first and screw everybody else. Like, that's what witnesses say, that worldly people say, but that's not been my experience.
Yeah. If you would have a drinking game, this broadcasting, it would be how much crap they say about other people. But it would be depressing. Like, in a world full of evilness, where people are greedy and selfish, we are outstanding because someone had a mailbox and we painted it. It's like, they don't talk about the mailbox, but really, really, really mundane things that are considered to be miracles.
They love mundane miracles.
Yeah. Let's see what they say here.
Therefore, we cannot afford to care more about our privileges, our pride, or our opinions than we do about Christian unity. If we put our own wants first, then just like a man who leaves his wallet out in public for a thief to steal, we place the congregation's unity in plain view for Satan to snatch. And there is no doubt that the devil will seize the opportunity and the congregation will suffer. We need to accept our personal responsibility to guard and protect our unity.
Yeah. Let's protect our unity.
Did your parents ever tell you you would roll your eyes so hard that they would get stuck there? Because I think that's happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I get yelled at for rolling my eyes.
Jake, you have
we can't hear you, bro.
Oh, hi. Sorry. Was my microphone muted?
Yes, it was. Good job, bud.
I was just like a string of curses, so it's good that I had it muted. Yeah, like the thing that he was saying about unity at all costs is a really frightening thing, actually, because this is the kind of language that leads cults into violent situations and really harmful situations, is the absolute unity above every other principle. And I had a conversation with a witness actually recently, and that was the thing that he was so stuck on, was the idea of Christian unity. And even though he disagreed with certain things, suppressing that and keeping that to himself because unity was the most important thing. And yeah, that can be really weaponized.
It's really easy to have unity when you kick everybody out that doesn't say all the right things.
Yeah,
that's a really good point, because it's kind of just an illusion of unity. If you're just if you're kicking out everyone who disagrees with you, then you don't really have unity. You just have, compliance.
So he talked about you should avoid your own preference, your own culture, your own opinion, your own thoughts through the broadcast, your own opinion. And then over and over again, they say you should avoid your own culture and say for unity. But who is the unity provider? Because if you should avoid your taste, well, then who decides what's correct taste? That would be Mark Sanderson and 8 other.
Once you're brainwashed, you finally have unity. That's how it is in the organization.
Because I, as a Jehovah Witnesses, would be allowed to have a red tie and a black shirt. They would say stuff like that. We're allowed to do this. We're allowed to do this. Question would be, allowed by whom? Who gave you the permission that it's okay to have a colored shirt and a colored tie? but it's not okay to when witnesses talk about, there are personal, we can express our own. Well, that's a very limited thing you get to do. You have a very limited freedom, but it's important for Watchtower to say you have a limited freedom. So how do we make the limited freedom look as big as possible? If you go to a convention now, people are dressed up in the craziest costume you can imagine. And I was in the Australian protest you saw, and I was talking to the Australian police, and they said, why do all the because all the Australian brothers, a lot of them had a kubras, the Australian hat. And I thought that's an Australian thing. But then the police actually went to me and asked, why do witnesses wear, these kubras, I think they're called? And they're like, they don't do that normally. Oh, no, it's their thing, like to show their nationality through their clothing. And there were people from Texas. And how do they put on their native costume when you're from Texas? I don't know. I've never been to Texas, but I saw
Cowboy
a lot
hat.
of Caucasian, white Caucasian, English-speaking, blue-eyed American delegates dressed up as Pocahontas with feathers and shit.
No.
Yeah.
Oh
Get out of here,
no, that's not
Well,
good.
It's
That's
kind
what
of, let's
happens
say it's
in-
weird.
If I'm gathering the trajectory of where this broadcast is headed, like this is something that I've really noticed is the way that Watchtower likes to say, like, you don't have to erase your cultural identity. We celebrate all cultures, but just everything associated with it and the history of it, that's all pagan. So strip that out. And so everybody's culture just gets reduced to a costume. So they like the imagery, they like the optics of having a bunch of people in their native garb come to the conventions, but they don't want, Hispanic people to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, or, do anything associated with that, right? Like everything that's associated with the history of your culture, especially if it retains like something spiritual, that's all, get rid of that. So, but you can play dress up. That's basically it. Hey, all right.
So, yeah, they do their routine. They probably do the same in America. They say positive. However, like it's Jehovah. It's okay to listen to music. You're allowed to listen to music. Jehovah loves music. However,
I wanted
they
to
do that, and they do this in this broadcast all the time. Like, we have this wonderful culture. However, your culture might destroy and reproach on Jehovah's name.
I really like.
Is there anything that doesn't bring reproach on Jehovah's name at this point? Just pretty much everything Jehovah hates. Let's be honest.
Watching Pillowgate is okay.
Oh yeah, that's completely
It
fine.
doesn't even like that because only special people are supposed to learn about not humping their pillows.
My favorite in this broadcasting is that they admitted, because Watchtower, if they can't keep something a secret, they will flush it out and put it in a really nice context. And they alleged, okay, so they didn't say everything out loud, but you can't understand it any other way than that Theodore Jarash used to go around just living in hotels on Watchtower's dime. And they frame it, they build up to it really like he's such a wonderful person. Even tested the beds in cities so witnesses should be happy. Thank you. But that's my favorite of this broadcast, because that might be a huge corruption that he goes and stay in hotel, maybe even without his wife. Why did they choose to put that into broadcasting? I think something might be revealed by apostates somehow or in a court case, and then they flush the toilet before anyone else. So they say, we never kept it a secret. I think that you have to keep watching and you will see it later. So let's move on with the chariot. No, it's this chariot. Chariot is moving.
So let's now discuss 4 areas where we especially need to guard and protect our Christian unity. The first is our response to direction from Jehovah's organization. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck in 2020, we all received direction, including new ways to attend our meetings and carry out our ministry, and ways to comply with the secular authorities. We all received direction and ways to comply with the secular authorities.
So, did you get the point I was aiming at?
Help us with it first. What?
Yeah, because they always do that. Like they talk about their direction. You should follow direction and obey. A lot about obedience. But when they talk, they speak about both and they separate it, and they use words that are very like cooperate with the government. You know, oh, when we cooperate with the government, or listening to what they have to say, or try to accommodate to them. But when they talk about the governing body, it's obedience, death, unless obedience, follow directions, obey, must.
Yeah, he also like he phrased it as like we told you ways that you can comply with the secular authorities. And that's really weird because it's like you can't just comply with the secular authorities. You have to like you can't just listen to CDC guidelines. You have to listen to the CDC guidelines as filtered through the governing body. Like as long as they agree with it, then you can do that. But you can't really just make up your own mind. And also just the freaking thing that like he talks about Jehovah's organization like in the third person, but it's him. It's like he's the head. It's him and his buddies. So every time he's saying like we need to listen to Jehovah's organization, he's saying you need to listen to me. Listen to all the stuff we're telling you.
That's the comforting deflection that the leadership always tended to use, because then it makes them seem like they're not so self-important. Like that kind of deflection is like, oh, we're all having to work together to serve Jehovah and to listen to what he has to say, even though he's literally just writing the rules for everybody.
I also didn't know that didn't know that they invented Zoom. Apparently, according to this, they found new ways of communication.
Oh, yes. Zoom was a provision from Jehovah, an ordinary miracle.
That's weird. I could have swore I used it a couple years ago.
Right?
By what metric did Jehovah provide Zoom? Like, in what way, like, what chain of events led to Zoom being, like, approved by Jehovah? Because I'm pretty sure the guy who invented Zoom was not a witness.
Well, you see, Zoom has been under construction from Jehovah for quite a while. It's why he couldn't help the brothers and sisters under banned in Russia. He was preparing for the pandemic and making sure that Zoom was going to be available.
Yeah, Jake, that sounded
maybe
like
the Tower of Babylon would have some kind of impact on the satellites. So that's why he canceled the Babylon project, so Zoom could work now. I like the idea that Jehovah really hated a high tower because it's such a technology, but they don't care about satellites.
I like the idea that Jehovah was the one who was like, Skype is dead now. We're not using Skype. It's Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I invited chaos. My cat's now going to try and tear the blinds down. So I'm going to open this.
Good going.
When we stand together and unitedly follow direction from Jehovah's organization, good things happen. Like what? Like what happened when the first century Christians complied with the direction from the apostles and older men with the direction from the apostles and older men in Jerusalem. As they traveled on through the cities, they would deliver to them for observance the decrees that had been decided on by the apostles and the elders who were in Jerusalem. Then indeed, the congregations continued to be made firm in the faith and to increase in number day by day.
So maybe you noticed that when before they get new light, they start to drop the new light everywhere, so you get used to it. And I think it seems like and sometimes they just back up and new light in a different direction. But when they talk about the governing body, they, really talk about the governing body now. And the governing body, you can't find them in the Bible. So they talk about the apostles and the elders, blah, blah, blah. So the first Christians follow the direction from the governing body. So they quote the scripture and they add governing body in the comment. That's how they started. Now I see when they talk about the scriptures about the apostles and the elders, they don't quote apostates and elders. They say apostles and older men. All of a sudden, we start more and more hearing a title of older men, which was unique to Jerusalem.
This is how they successfully rewrite
everywhere, but older men is only a certain group of people.
This is how they successfully rewrite the Bible and get people to accept it. They subtly continue to do this little bit at a time until it just becomes commonplace, common terminology. And then it's not a big shock when, they just make a blatant statement in a watchtower or something.
That's a really good observation, because I think you're exactly right. Like, the fact that the elders were involved is a big problem for them because it's a contradiction with how the governing body works now and the fact that they like to use Acts 15. So they're kind of ignoring the fact that elders were involved with this decision by saying the older men, which kind of makes it sound like it's the governing body because they're older men. Ooh, good catch.
I'm pretty sure that their next Bible is just going to replace Jehovah with governing body. I just think that would be the best route to go.
Might as well. That's what it means.
I think my pointer, I think the next New World Translation, when they talk about, the apostles and the elders in Jerusalem, they will talk about the apostles and the older men. So when they translate older men in the Bible, they will translate it into elder everywhere, except in Jerusalem. Then it's older man. Then you have distinction that these are two different groups. That's created. It's fake. I have a cousin, and he's a Jehovah Witness, and he's an elder. His name is David Newman, if you're watching. He's an elder in what's called Albany, the capital of New York. He's an elder there. So from my perspective, from a Scandinavian perspective, if someone would say, we went and, talk about the governing body, the apostles and the elders in the state of New York, I wouldn't think about the governing body. I was first and foremost think about my cousin. There are no apostles there in New York, but there are a shitload of elders. So they really need to differentiate themselves from elders. I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's right. Can I also just throw in real quick the fact that a couple of times they've thrown in the devil will seize the opportunity. Satan's just looking for a way to divide us, and it's just these little fear mongering things. It's not just that it's not good to be not unified because then that makes things more complicated and stressful. It's that's a tool of Satan, a lack of unity, and you insisting upon your personal preferences. Even that's a way that the devil is sneaking into the congregation. That kind of language is very sneaky in how it just subtly terrifies people of having personal opinions.
So if you have an experience with how Watchtower behave in court, and you watch this a few times, which I have, you notice that for me, this is kind of them preparing a court trial in both ways. Because what's the Satan coming after them? It's court cases for how they handle child abuse. So they want people to forgive, to forgive, to forgive. You have to forgive. You must forgive. It's a duty to forgive. But technically, these are two different words. Notice the two different words, and we only say have to in this category and encouragement in this category, but you do have to. They say you have to forgive, you have to have unity. Come to that later. But it's typical. It sounds like their lawyer have asked for this, and I think it's very much about asking victims of child abuse to shut up, because otherwise Satan will destroy our organization. but still a lawyer can pick the speech apart and say, well, we never said you have to forgive. We only use the word must, obey, have to, duty to forgive about this thing, but not that. We'll come to it later. Let's see here.
Individual Christians and congregations recognized and submitted to the authority of the governing body at that time, the apostles and elders who were in Jerusalem. Did you note the beneficial results? The congregations continued to be made firm and to increase. And that's what happened when you, brothers and sisters, followed the direction regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. We experienced significant increases in meeting attendance. The attendance for the 2021 memorial reached an all-time peak. It is amazing what Jehovah accomplishes when we stand together as one united people.
Yes.
That's not culty at all.
It's amazing what you like. The numbers go up when you make it remarkably more convenient to attend the memorial. When all you have to do is click a button, suddenly more people show up. It's amazing and miraculous.
So my brother, he said, he doesn't believe. And he said, been sitting on Zoom, he's just sending invoices to customers. You put on a white shirt and a tie, and then you do all the paperwork for his company in front of a camera.
Yeah. I mean, he literally said, submit. So this is what's clever. And this goes to what you were talking about earlier, is like the way that they are really careful with their language. He says like the benefits that the first century congregation had in submitting to the direction to the governing body of the day. And then it's like, did you note the positive effects? So he doesn't say submit to the governing body, but he's like, did you notice how when the other congregation submitted that it was really great? So he doesn't have to say submit to me. He just was like, interesting how things seem to work out when people submitted to the governing body in the past. Interesting.
Yeah, and that's a trigger word throughout this broadcast is like governing body. Wee! Governing body. Wee! You will notice the governing body. Wee! They put in symbols in the background, and it goes like woo.
Bold words, those.
Bold words, those. I noticed, I remember this because I did a video on it, and the wording really stood out to me at the time. Which, when his entire wording about reading that little scripture about the numbers multiplying day by day, and did you note the positive results? That's all basically word for word from their new study publication. The I don't remember what it's called, but it's the one with the guy walking on the cover. That's basically the word for word from the study chapter on the governing body. And that's for basically, it's for Bible studies. So he really is just using incredibly simplified language, basically for people who aren't even witnesses. It's just like, I don't know. That was notable to me.
The way that he talks to the audience kind of reminds me of how I talk to my cats. Just who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? It's just terrible.
Yeah, that's true. Let's roll. So you remember I said when they talk about something, they will show. So talk about one thing, then they will show pictures of the opposite. So you start, like the famous thing, ignorance is strength, war is peace. And you do that, and after a while, people get you because you redefine it. So what is unity? Unity is unity. Unity, unity, unity. And they talk about unity while showing the opposite of unity. So I have an example of this here, if memory serves me right. Because what's the biggest division among Jehovah's Witnesses? So while he talk about unity, they sneak in this.
It is amazing what Jehovah accomplishes when we stand together as one united people.
You got my point?
It's
Or am I
amazing.
fantasizing?
It's amazing what happens when we just submit to the governing body and do everything that they tell us to do.
But they present the pictures of not of division while talking about unity, and you just accept it that this is unity, unity, unity. But actually, it's this kind of the symbol of division.
Oh, because
Yeah,
of the
it's just-
anointed versus earthly class. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It's I spend too much time watching this. I start seeing what they do, and it's like rabbit hole more.
A second area in which we need to protect our unity is culture. A second area in which we need to protect our unity is culture.
Yeah, so why did I show that twice? So you see, when they edit something, so they say blah, 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 trigger word. And then just when they say the trigger word, they change a picture or something happened in the background. So if they say, I was depressed, but then the elders called me. And then when they say elders call me, there comes a ray of light into the room, like it would be Jehovah. So it would be, I was depressed, but the elders called me. They use things like that. And so when I sit editing, it's really easy to see. So my point is, when they say something about culture, it is important to culture, then the clip to culture would be like this, and that's what our brain expect. So you say blah, 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 culture.
I get what you're saying, like just how much they've thought out their videos to the point where they're subliminally, making you accept things in the background, giving you a picture that makes you feel more comforted when you hear certain words. It just contributes to a set mindset that there's no way that these people are lying to us. There's no way. We have to listen to them. They know the truth.
So the clip I showed now, that was how they normally do, like blah, 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 culture, and they show a picture of the word culture. But when he talk about this now, your brain will look for culture. It will see something else, accept it as truth, and move on. So just see how they edit it. And this is like really bad editing. So it's safe to say they did it for a reason. So this is how it is.
A second area in which we need to protect our unity is culture. Jehovah's organization is diverse. We love to be introduced to different kinds of food, different styles of dress, and interesting customs. How wonderful.
Yeah. What do you think?
Basically, they said...
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Basically, they said that they have culture, and then they mentioned 3 very basic things that aren't diverse at all.
But did you notice the editing? When you do edit, it's like not possible to. They say is culture, and when they say culture, it pops up follow direction from Jehovah's organization.
So that wasn't your editing putting that in. That was from yes, it literally said, okay, culture, yes, accept culture, but then the literal bullet point says respect what Jehovah thinks about culture more than your culture. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Value Jehovah's thinking more than our own culture, is what it says.
Let's see again.
Creepy thing to say.
A second area in which we need to protect our unity is culture.
You understand?
Follow direction from Jehovah's organization. Yeah. Now I'm just mad.
This is beyond because they also use a lot of hypnotic techniques, but
they do.
They say is culture. So when you do good editing, which they know how to do, you say blah, 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 trigger word, and they change it like the light if it's Jehovah, or dark light if it's the world, or something like that. Bad association in using worldly person. But you follow the flow of the words. So you say culture, and then something that symbolizes culture. But here they say culture, and this shows up, follow direction from Jehovah's organization. And then while he starts something about
Jehovah's organization.
then you see this, which is basically more confusing. So this is a confusing technique you can use in hypnosis, because it doesn't say culture here. We have to read, and when you read about somewhere here, he's already speaking about something here further on.
Yes, your brain just has to accept the words that are prior to the word culture. And because culture is the ending word, you're hearing what he's saying, you're thinking about culture, and then your brain just accepts, oh yeah, I need to value Jehovah's thinking more than culture. Absolutely. And then your brain just moves on. They pinpoint everything like this. Ugh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
It's also like he's not really making two separate points when you think about it, because for all intents and purposes,
Thank you.
like that first bullet point is the only point that he's going to be making this entire time, which is just do what we tell you to do and don't do anything else. So
And don't
he
ask
doesn't really
questions.
need to go on and do, a couple more bullet points. He could just say follow direction from Jehovah's organization, the end.
When people talk about subliminal messages, it's like it's written upside down in Russian in invisible ink. It doesn't work like that. So you have to see it with your conscious mind, kind of believe it or want to believe it while being confused, so you also believe something else. Then it goes down. If you don't see it, if my name is written upside down here in invisible ink, you will not pick it up. So well, people say, like, look here, if you hold it upside down and use a mirror, you can see the devil in a bookshelf in one of the Watchtower literature. That's bullshit, because if you need a mirror, hold it upside down, it wouldn't work. It's like I tried to hypnotize you in Norwegian now. It wouldn't work because you don't understand it.
Well, one thing that they
but
do...
this is visible. That's my point. It is straight visible. People believe that hypnosis should be something like really, really sinister, but you see the flow. It's the flow that makes you pick it up.
One thing they do that's really good, like you can notice if you like listen to the videos, is they obviously do their own score for everything, but then like they also will like underscore certain moments with key themes from Watchtower songs, right? Like so if somebody's being courageous, it'll play like the courage, give me courage, like it'll underscore it with that. And other little things like that. And that's, that's good. It's good soundtracking. It's smart that they do that. But it's also just another little way that they're just like subliminally, they can put across a message on screen and then underscore it with a song that people know, like they know the meaning of the song and stuff. So they've got like a million different ways they can get into your subconscious with these videos.
Yeah, so we have a song later in the broadcast. Where do you think they sing that there are some, we are different, we know we're different, we have different cultures, and there are a few things that you can choose for yourself, while they're showing all these pictures of national costumes? They do it all the time, sell in these small points. See her.
Feeling that my race, my tribe, my ethnicity, my culture is superior. Can you see how that kind of thinking would divide us?
Yeah, what do you think? If someone has their own opinion, isn't that the same as racism, basically?
I'm so mad about this shit. I hate this. I hate this thing that they do. Like, I really don't think that this is a common issue to the world, right? As somebody who's now part of the world, really, like, that kind of thinking is not that common, of people being like, my race is superior. That's just racism. What you see is people fighting for equality, but for an organization that hates equality, equality is oppression for them. So they don't like that. They don't like it. Like Ukraine fighting to be a sovereign nation and to be respected. That's them, being oppressive and thinking highly of themselves and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No,
Yeah.
you are.
Okay.
You're trying to explain nonsense. So
Yeah, that's often what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I found it interesting that they just brought this up as well, because I was thinking, are they admitting to some degree that they've had an issue with racism within the JW religion? Because why bring it up if this hasn't come up?
I think it's just, painting a picture that if you don't have unity, which involved you have to forgive pedophiles, you have to do what we say, you have to do this. You're allowed to you're allowed to dress as Pocahontas. We don't care. You go to Australia, if you save up your money, give them to us through different travel agencies, and you go to Australia once in your life, you can dress up as Pocahontas in public on a Kingdom Hall, even if you're a Caucasian woman. But other than that, so you get this limited freedom, and we make a big deal out of it. But then they say, if you don't accept this, painting a picture that those that don't like unity are racists. They're somewhere between black and white, But it's like, no, I prefer this. It's my culture. Racist.
Yeah, you're not allowed to have any kind of pride as an individual. And like this is especially problematic in the United States. It ends up being really oppressive. Like, Black people in the US aren't who are witnesses really aren't able to celebrate their history and their past because that's considered to be, I don't know, it's like feeling like you're superior. So just like self-worth and having a sense of history about your race, your nationality, or whatever, all that stuff is seen as haughty, and that can be really oppressive. So Watchtower is a racist organization. They just whitewash everything, in my opinion.
So when they talk about, there are different cultures, they have a way of speaking that it's like they're absolutely in oblivion that he himself has a culture. It sounds like they think like we're normal. Yes. We love the brothers that have cultures. Like they have cultures. They have cultures. They have cultures. They have cultures. Even the brother, I'm Caucasian and very much the same culture as Christian Yankee, But even for me, when we watch broadcasting, we think like, oh, this is so American. This is so American culture. This is so Americanized. This is so American. I guess people from Africa see more than me.
Yeah, like that's a good point. Whenever they're saying different cultures, they mean like different from American culture, because this is very much an American religion. And all of the standards of modesty and dress and grooming are from these guys who are Americans with fashion sensibilities from like the 1950s.
Yeah, I remember, the long list of what we can't do about Christmas. I was checking that list and there was stuff wasn't on the list. So I asked, can I do this? And, did a really big research in the elders and the literature. And then they said, yes, you can do it. And, to put up a piece of grain, the whole grain for the birds. But that's basically a sacrifice to a pagan god called Frey. But Watchtower don't know that, so they never added it on the not to do list. So we would put down literally a sacrifice on a stake outside our house, and it was okay because God's American and he didn't know that. So you get away with a lot of pagan stuff because it's never been mentioned in the literature. It's God's blind spot.
To preserve our unity, we need to focus not on how we are different from one another, but how we are the same. We are Jehovah's Witnesses first, not African, Asian, North American, South American, or European. Our people are our spiritual family, our spiritual brothers and sisters. Our culture is genuine Christianity. When we are willing to adopt Jehovah's thinking that we learn from his word, even setting aside our own personal customs or culture if necessary, we stand together as one united people.
Oh, you know, that culture that you don't even have a nationality. No, nationalities, absolutely not. We're Christians. And when you become a Jehovah's Witness, you have no culture. You just serve God. That's your culture. That's what unifies us, having no identity.
Right? They're basically like, oh, you're allowed to be born the race you are, but you're not allowed to draw any attention to it whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, think about the fact that like they're perfectly fine with like the civil rights thing really bugs me, and it's on my mind because it's something I'm gonna like put in a future video. But like they were perfectly fine with segregation in the United States. There used to be just white kingdom halls and black kingdom halls, and they did nothing to fight to change that. Now, supposedly Christians are supposed to be unified, like he said, regardless of race, but they didn't care enough to fight for that unity. So they just passively accepted the racism and segregation, and like that kind of like passivity, just like it always benefits oppression. So like when they're saying these things and like stripping people of their identities, they are playing into a narrative. Like this is a narrative that benefits Russia. This is exactly what Russia wants, is for people to say, don't get involved with the war. Just don't take side, don't take Ukraine's side. Not taking a side is kind of the same as supporting the oppressor, in my opinion.
Jehovah's Witnesses are only politically neutral unless something is directly oppressing them. Then it's okay to go ahead and get political because that's what God would want, obviously. But literally, they're accomplishing nothing other than supporting Russia at this point. There is nothing, there is no true neutrality. There isn't. They're just literally supporting oppression.
Right. And this is at a time when I was thinking about the segregation comment that you made. This was around the same time that they were fighting all sorts of other court cases that had to do with freedoms, but taking care of their minority members was not one of their priorities.
That's a really good point, and I'm going to steal it.
And this is clearly a Bible principle. If I would be religious, like, well, obviously it's not in the Bible, but like today, we would consider it a good Bible principle that everyone should be equal and stuff like that. So if they should take something to the Supreme Court, it would be that we, both white and black, want to worship together. They could have been the good guys. And they dropped that opportunity. And you know why they say? Well, obviously it's Satan's fault and everyone else's fault. But they say it's because that someone might have destroyed our real estate. People might have destroyed windows. It's like, as soon as real estate's a part of the deal, it's like, well, we'll lay this in Jehovah's hand.
Yeah, like once property damage is possible to happen. Yeah, I also like, I don't know. I had a thing I was going to say and then it left my brain. I'm sorry. It died.
Yeah.
It must not have been that important.
Did you ever have that as kid that you were not that you had to tell people that you were not Americans, that you were Jehovah's Witnesses? Because I had to do that in school. So people say, "Are you Swedish?" I said, "No, I'm not Swedish." But you live in Sweden. Yes. Your parents, are they Swedish? No, they're not Swedish. What about your grandparents? Well, my father's parents, they are Swedish, but my mother's are Jehovah's Witnesses. We were not allowed to say, in addition to all the other crazy stuff, I was not allowed to say that I was Swedish.
That's
I'm not sure I've ever.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that either. That's absolutely insane.
That's really interesting. I think it's not like, in principle, you would never hear like a witness being introduced. It's like, this is an American Jehovah's Witness. You're right, like, because that is the cultural identity. But like, it's easy for Watchtower to say this because, like you said earlier, like they don't see themselves as having a culture. They see like white Western maleness. That's normal, and then everything else is cultural and diversity.
I mean, that's literally what they've just said in the video itself.
It is, yeah. So like culture, the Jehovah's Witness culture looks an awful lot like American culture from like the early 1800s when all these religions first started.
Yeah, but culture also changed. If you look at the culture in the Bible, it changed from time to time, It wasn't the same. So when they say, often use that like culture in the Bible, and well, we'll come to that later, because they want to change the culture that you should have really, really, really young elders. That's what I'm aiming at. But from the Bible perspective, sometimes in the Bible, you were allowed to do things when you were young, but other times in the Bible, you were not allowed to do things when you're young. So which one to pick? Well, so when they say, like, Jehovah's thinking is more important than culture, it's more like governing bodies cherry picking is more important than your culture. We'll come to that later. I have seen this too many times, so I remember everything.
A third area is personality differences. Growing up in this divided world, we may have absorbed some of its sensitivities, but Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 9 says, "Do not be quick to take offense." If a fellow Christian hurts our feelings, we have a special opportunity and obligation to show that we stand together as one united people. How can we do that? Colossians chapter 3 and verse 13 says, "Continue putting up with one another and forgiving one another freely, even if anyone has a cause for complaint against another. Just as Jehovah freely forgave you, you must also do the same."
So if you've been with Watchtower in court, you start to see how they prepare court cases in the literature. So they tell about one thing, and the witnesses understand it one way. But if you pick it apart, you can say, "We never said that." So here,
Yes.
he say the scripture that you have to put up with each other and forgive each other. Well, the scriptures say you have to in both cases. You have to put up with each other and you have to forgive each other. So, and they talk about this, you have to, you must, it's your duty. But then in the end of the video, they will kind of say like, well, what if there's something serious? Well, how would you then take the Bible's encouragement? So when you take this apart, you can actually argue in court that Jehovah's Witnesses never said that if there's a serious crime, you have to forgive him. If you've never been with Watchtower in court, and this is your first time you watch Apostasy, you probably think I'm paranoid. But if you've been with them in court, they do this all the time. So he said now, you have to look at these words here: putting up with, forgive. Putting up, that could be a small thing, but you have to forgive it. But in the same scripture, they also say, forgive sins. And they use word as obligated, you must, you have to. They use the word human imperfection. When they talk about human imperfection, it means that you deserve to die. So they say, you have to forgive, otherwise Jehovah can't forgive you. But then in the end, when they talk about like serious thing that could, in a legal sense, be crimes like child abuse, then they use the word Bible encourage us. So I'm pretty sure this is meant to be used in court. Like witnesses that see this, see it as you have to. Elders will apply it like you have to, but in court you can say, no, we use the word Bible encourage us as soon as we came to the juicy part. So what do you say?
I think this is what we would refer to as a word salad.
Yeah. So he says here, note those two phrases. And then he goes,
putting up with one another and forgiving one another. Some imperfections and slights are so small. Do they really require formal forgiveness? Because of our human imperfection, we need to do what Paul says. We have to learn to just put up with them. On the other hand, if a fellow Christian has actually sinned against us in some way, giving us a genuine cause for complaint. What does the Scripture encourage us to do? What does the Scripture encourage us to do? Forgive one another freely. That is what Jehovah does for you and for me. Putting up with and forgiving one another is vital if we are to stand together as one united people.
What do you think?
Oh boy.
Word
He doesn't do
salad.
it freely, does he? Like he doesn't forgive freely because there's all these stipulations all the
Yeah.
time.
Forgiveness
I-
with a price.
I do agree with one thing, though. He says we have to put up with each other. I do remember Jehovah's Witnesses being pretty difficult to put up with.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like a weird concession. He's like, yeah, some of us are just annoying and you just gotta put up with them.
Like 90%. Not a lot,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, I really hated this. So thank you for
But
showing me.
if you were a preacher that believed in the Bible, would you speak like that? You say like, first we have to define two different words: put up, forgive. If someone do a small thing, official forgiveness is not necessary. If someone do a big thing, the Bible encourage you, blah 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 blah, and then they move on to that you're imperfect and all these trigger words. But in court, this is perfect to use in court. That we don't pressure anyone to forgive brother pedophile. No, to the contrary, we have very clearly stated that these are two different things, and encouragement. They use the word encouragement, but it's the same scripture. They just made this legal thing that, like in this monologue, I separate the word forgiveness temporary, add on the word encouragement, but it is the same scripture, and you have to.
They have to go ahead and use this method so that they can get themselves out of legal trouble and still demand certain perspectives and actions from active members. Being in the organization, we know the pressures that we're under, we know how this works, and we know that people are shunned. But then what do they say publicly? We don't require our members to shun people. We don't do that. That's definitely something that we wouldn't do. But that's not the case inside the organization. They leave things so broad and so open so that they can cherry pick specific phrases to get themselves out of trouble.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about how the Elders book has actually changed disfellowshipping. If you're associating with a disfellowship person, as long as they're family and you're not having continued spiritual discussions, you can't get disfellowshipped. But ask the regular rank and file that, and
you will be punished for that. You will 100% be punished for that. But it doesn't say it in writing, so they can't get in trouble, or at least that's what they think.
Well, this is I really like the angle on how this helps them legally too, because what's hard to prove in court is the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses, and like how you are inundated with broadcasts exactly like this, basically all day, every day, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. If you're doing your daily Bible reading and meditating and reading the text and all that stuff and going out to all the meetings, the culture is you forgive and you put up with people and you don't make a stink about yourself. You don't do anything that would bring attention to you, and you don't do anything that would bring reproach upon Jehovah's name. And so that's why a lot of times, child abuse goes unreported, because there is a culture of keep it in the organization, forgive people. But it's hard to prove that. But and if you were to ask a witness, like if they had to forgive like a pedophile or something, they would probably say, no, this doesn't count in that circumstance. That's not what we're saying. But the governing body is never making these distinctions. They're not saying, now, obviously there are exceptions. If somebody commits a crime against us or somebody does something heinous, are we under obligation to forgive them? No, they never do that. So witnesses are only ever hearing this side of things, which is absolute forgiveness all the time.
The government work with three branches. You have the legislative branch, the executive branch, and then you have the what you call it in English, the judiciary. So basically that's the way the government thinks. So, and Watchtower present themselves in the same way. Oh, you have the governing body, and they kind of pass down legislation. That's the elders' book, and then the elders take a judgment, so they are in charge of that. But in real life, Watchtower control all three, because they also control the culture that everything is done through. Like you can be shunned if you're a Jehovah's Witness kid. They said it on the last broadcast that we should avoid, you should avoid a child that's not thinking wholesome thoughts. That's a crime, to be shunning a child for not agreeing with the group of their religious beliefs. So when Watchtower, so often I see when I try to explain this to politicians and stuff like that, because the politicians, they look, everything makes sense. And it took for a while for me, because Watchtower present themselves in a way that the government can relate to. Say, well, this is the legislation. It seems okay. What the elders do has nothing to do with the one who wrote the legislation, because that's how a government works with three legs to stand on. So Watchtower presents themselves, perfect picture with three legs, but they can control all three of them. And that makes them very efficient in court when they misrepresent this, because the government can relate to it. So let's see.
Our fourth area is how we respond when our brothers are in distress. While coping with the COVID-19 pandemic, numerous lands were hit by other disasters, hurricanes, volcanoes, fires. But our brothers also experience other forms of distress, like the effects of old age, the loss of a loved one in death, chronic health problems, and the list goes on and on. What do Jehovah's Witnesses do when we see our brothers in distress? We immediately come to their aid. We stand together. In this very selfish and divided world, this is not a small thing. It is not something to take for granted. Jesus said at John chapter 13, verses 34 and 35, that this deep, unselfish love in action would identify his true disciples. If you love those loving you, of what credit is it to you? For even the sinners love those loving them. And if you do good to those doing good to you, of what credit is it to you? Even the sinners do the same. We give powerful evidence that we are true disciples of Christ Jesus.
How can they act like helping brothers and sisters in need after a natural disaster is something that's just unseen anywhere else in the world, and it's just the mark of true Christianity?
Yeah, the irony here is just brain melting. Like my brain can't handle much irony.
I feel physical pain over this. Yeah. This is just disgusting.
I loved you juxtaposing those the scripture with what he was saying.
Highlight.
Yeah, no, that was really good.
Someone had to say it. It's so. Don't they read the Bible? It's literally what the Bible says, that you should be nice to everyone, not only those that love you.
Well, this is the thing that's so horrific about this, is categorizing the world as selfish, but witnesses as selfless. When, like, what's more selfish than only helping your own tribe and thinking that you're the only group that's going to survive Armageddon, and thinking that, you know, it's okay for parents to shun their kids? Like, this is incredibly selfish. But apparently the world's the selfish ones for occasionally getting involved in political discussions.
You know, one of the reasons why Watchtower are so nice to help other Jehovah's Witnesses? It's because, allegedly, because I never seen the paper, but I worked a lot with construction, and this is the way everyone thought it was, and we accepted it, and I didn't really think about it, but I never seen the paper. But allegedly, I use that word to cover the rest of the conversation. What Watchtower is supposed to do is that they get you to sign over the insurance paper to them. So this house is insured for 4 million Norwegian kroner, like 400,000 US dollar. If this house would be damaged and I signed it over for Jehovah Witnesses, the insurance money, they come and build me a new house with free labor and donated material. They cash 4 million kroner. And since they are a charity, they don't have to pay. And if I call them and say, the water is leaking, the brother who made the plumbing, was he qualified? And they'll say, yes, he was qualified. He served at Bethel for 3 years and he'd been a missionary in Bolivia. Understand? They will not give me any kind of guarantees. They will cash 4 millions. And if I say, I'm not accepting this guy was not a plumber. He was an elder that's been in Bolivia. Doesn't make you qualified plumber. I will be disfellowshipped. So allegedly is that the way it works. And I never seen any paper, but you're making cash that way.
And that's what Watchtower is most oriented on nowadays anyways.
So even when I was a Jehovah Witness, because I actually love being a Jehovah Witness, and I loved working on different projects, and I worked on so many projects that I learned a lot. So even if I would be a 100% believing Jehovah Witness today, and there was some kind of natural disaster that just destroyed my house, and the next day, while I'm sleeping in my tent with a cold and angry wife, there are 300 really loving Jehovah Witnesses. They are nice people. They are standing here and say, we will fix the house, just sign here. I would say, I'll stay in the tent. Even as a Jehovah Witness, I would stay in the tent rather than accept help from Jehovah Witnesses. And I say that with love, because there's a lot of nice people, but I also know allegedly how it would work when I ask about the plumber's education, and that would be Gilead, and it's my fault for having the wrong attitude. So I would actually not ask them to, but okay, to be totally honest, if I didn't have an insurance and they came here and said, I will fix your house, just sign over the insurance for me, yep, I would sign it.
Sure.
I would accept help. But, if I had the choice to just have a real company doing it, and they make 4 million and they pay taxes for their workers and sales tax and contribute to, my community, I would much rather have that and real guarantees instead of a pet panda in the afterlife. So I would say the reason why they don't help other people, if I'm right, allegedly, would be that because worldly people don't sign the insurance money on them. They would just say, thank you for giving me a house, and I get insurance money to pocket for myself. Thank you. Something like that. I'm not a lawyer. What do you think?
Of everything that's happened so far, or something specific?
Is it absolutely fantasy on my part that Watchtower is making money when they're building houses? Free material, often donated material, not always. A lot of donated material, a lot of donated time. And from what I've heard and everyone agreed on back in the days was that Watchtower got the insurance money.
I don't think that that's a fantasy, and I think it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And
if you want to quality check this, please call Bethel and said you watched my channel, and they will give you all the information, because I worked with sheet metal and roofing, and I never really seen the paper. I do have seen that they keep books. Double bookkeeping that I've seen with my own eyes. I got the salary, the Bethel, like Bethelite salary, you get like $100 a month or something like that. And it was 800 kroner, like $80 back in the day. And I got 500 because of the taxes. So then in the end, and I had to sign a paper, and this paper slip were put in a book. And then in the end, this didn't show up on my statement. And I spoke to Watchtower and said, it's your fault. But we had to give you from the other books because of blah, 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 blah. So I did sign paper that were put into slips that went into the other books.
So they can just easily go ahead and falsify reports on anything. They have everything down to assignment.
No, I didn't say that. I just say that my salary which they actually lowered because of the taxes, but it was paid without taxes. It's kind of, it doesn't really make any sense to screw someone for $30 a month because of the taxes. Well, I actually didn't pay taxes, so where's my $30?
They allegedly are making very poor choices here, is all I'm gathering.
Yeah. So, but that's the reason why I think they only do this help to other people, is because
For money.
if I'm right, like Hurricane Katrina, they wrote in the literature about people, when they want someone to do something, they tell about the wonderful experience, about a couple that quit their job and became pioneer, a couple that quit their job and work on Bethel, and then it was a couple that quit their job and kept working after Hurricane Katrina for months and months and months and months. And I was reading that as a witness, and I just looked at, they're making money on the insurance money. Because when they encourage you to do something, it'll always because it's good for them. So I'm convinced, but I can't prove it.
Now, how much more of this are you going to subject us to? Go. Like, how much more of this broadcast is there?
Is it too long?
What's that?
Let us renew our determination to protect our Christian unity by following direction from Jehovah's organization, by valuing Jehovah's thinking more than our own culture, by putting up with and forgiving one another freely, and by helping one another in times of distress. By doing so, we will not allow Satan to steal our precious unity. Instead, we will stand together as one united people.
Yeah. That's
a rousing conclusion.
The COVID pandemic was a time of distress for everyone. Sadly, some of our brothers and sisters lost family members to the virus. How could love be shown to these dear ones in the midst of the pandemic? We'll see how this was accomplished in our next video.
My bank account was blocked. I had debts. I had COVID. And the landlord gave me a week to leave the house. I was feeling tired, without strength. I felt helpless. So the friends took care of the entire move, helped to clean the house, and helped me out financially. They were like my arms and legs. They supported me. I felt like my spiritual family was carrying me in their arms. Before, I felt weak and powerless. Jehovah gave me strength. He helped me by means of the brothers. I didn't feel alone at any time. I felt that I belonged to a family that was caring for me and supporting me. Seeing Jehovah's support for me by means of the brothers makes me feel secure, thinking about how he will support me in the future.
How he will support us in the future. She promised that this is some kind of ongoing thing. I noticed they do that. So I feel sorry for the sister.
I feel incredibly sorry for the situation that she had to deal with.
Yeah. But why is it that Jehovah is always able to help people out of these terrible situations, but can't seem to prevent people from getting in them
in the first place?
Like, he allows you to get to the absolute most miserable point in your life where you've lost everything and you've got COVID and you're losing your home and all this stuff. And then, he'll perform this miraculous thing of people helping you move. Like it's one of those mundane miracles. It's like, this just sounds like human goodness to me. It just sounds like a bunch of nice people who were willing to help.
Thank you. Yeah,
there's
because
nothing
that's
miraculous
what it
about
was.
it.
But all those nice people that were willing to help assist this sister to go ahead and be able to move, that was actually Jehovah. It wasn't just people motivated from the kindness and goodness of their own hearts. It was God himself.
Yeah.
No, but they do the double speak. They start with saying, "Oh, if you follow the direction, everything goes great. It's wonderful." And then they go like, "It didn't go well, but we saved her. It didn't go well, but we saved her. It didn't go well, but we saved her."
Yeah, it's time and unforeseen occurrence on one hand, and
But really, the point is with religion is that it is exceptional. You're in a hurry, Hig? We have to move on because his wife's angry, so... Let's see her.
Our hearts go out to all who have lost loved ones during the pandemic. We are not shielded from time and unexpected events, but Jehovah always helps us to endure hardship, often through the love shown by our brothers and sisters.
My husband used to do everything, and now it's my responsibility to be the spiritual head of the family. I needed help. The elders helped me prepare for family worship. That's exactly what we needed at that moment.
Exactly what they needed.
Oh.
I wanted to actually shout out a comment in the chat from Tammy G. It says the woman who lost her place noticed that the organization didn't do anything for her. The organization doesn't help their members. The congregation jumps in, nothing from the leadership. Disgusting. So like, yeah, all of the nice, her friends helped out, basically. Her friends from church helped out, and that's great. But it wasn't like the organization did anything other than existing. Yeah. They just send free laborers.
Yeah, I've heard stories from Bethel where people have gotten hurt and they've actually been sent home and they haven't had their injuries cared for. So that shows how little the organization actually cares. And I just think about the fact that they essentially gave free labor potentially for years, and that their salary that they should have made off of that would be more than enough to pay for any treatment they would need.
Yeah.
Yeah, what she really needed was indoctrination of the kids. Like the one lady that went through a terrible situation, and I do believe the local witnesses were wonderful, because they are. But that's not... If the Jehovah Witness religion is true, it should not be ordinary. It should be exceptional, and nothing they say is exceptional. I feel sorry for them, but it's not exceptional. And the one lady that actually got help was how to log on to jw.org and to indoctrinate her kids, because it was her duty. Who told her that it was her duty? It was the elders, the governing body. So the help she got, the actual help, was to fulfill a duty that it's not a real duty. That's the only help they got. Really sad if you think about it. Are you in a hurry, Jake?
Just a little bit. We got dinner coming.
We also show love in everyday matters, as we'll see in the following video.
Oh.
Okay, so in the following video, we see them do a nice thing to an old man, and that's good. It's good to do a nice thing to an old man, but they can't leave it with that. Obviously, they need to add something that's important for Watchtower. So what do you think? Is it recruiting new members, taking care of real estate, or something else? You want to guess?
Yeah, did they like hook up his internet so he can watch the new broadcast or something?
Yeah, because they can't just have a nice feel-good story about something good. It always had to be underlining about real estate. Real estate. Let's see. It's real estate.
Everything I know about Kingdom Hall maintenance, I learned from Brother Ho-Jin Kong. He encouraged me when I needed a little push. Taught me the right way to do things. And continued to teach me with kindness and love. So when he asked to borrow a ladder, I was happy to lend him mine.
Honey, here are some things I need for our lunch today with the Youngs. What's the ladder for?
Ho-Jin needs it.
Ho-Jin? How's he doing? I heard something about a cane.
Ho-Jin? A cane? No way. He's still as strong as an ox.
Maybe. But it seems like, well, you'll see how he's doing. And don't forget to stop at the store.
I'm coming. Here I come.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Is everything okay?
I just can't dash down the stairs.
I was on my way to the store and thought I'd drop off the ladder.
Thanks.
Freshly wrapped.
Just leave it by the garage. It's almost time for lunch. The gutters can wait. They've waited this long.
Okay, will do. Bye.
Drive safe.
Gutters?
He's getting a premonition.
Well, I'm glad that he finally figured out he should probably help. Like, I'm thinking immediately, you're going to give a ladder to somebody who needs a cane to get around?
This is the weirdest dramatization I ever seen.
I love that the cane was in wrapping, like it was in plastic wrap. Like, it's a new cane. So it's reasonable that he didn't know about the cane. I don't know. It's
There's a cane that he never used, but the sisters in the congregation knew about it.
I heard something about a cane, maybe being in plastic in his house. I don't know.
But it's kind of fun part of the culture. The witnesses don't see it, but we see it because we stepped out of the culture. The elders got their actual information from the wives. You know, he bought a new cane. He never used it, but all the sisters knew about it, and they informed the elders, so the elders know, oh, he has a cane now.
Also, he's not doing the greatest. Well, you'll see. Be sure to go to the store. Okay, bye.
So I believe.
Like, hello, I'm here. Hello. That like weird when he was like looking in the windows. I don't know. That was great.
Obviously, should help an old man to clean the gutters. I'm all for that, but I can't. It's not like, oh, I really love this man because he gave me a loving and understanding push when I didn't want to do maintenance on the Kingdom Hall. But now I know, and our friendship is based on the fact that he pushed me to do maintenance on the Kingdom Hall and the right way to do maintenance on the Kingdom Hall. That's like the basis of the friendship is maintenance of watchtower. Real estate.
That's a really good
That's
point.
real loving start. That's what we have in common is our love for Watchtower's real estate portfolio. But I think the whole script, and I'm pretty sure the script is so weird. So I can only one idea. Someone on Bethel in Korea run a forklift over an aluminum ladder, and someone said, maybe we can use it as a prop.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the point of the video itself, it's not bad. It's just so poorly made. The thought to go ahead and help somebody in need, great. Absolutely all for that. But this is just so awkwardly and oddly done.
Yeah, but
really
in
weird.
this video, do you really need the aluminum ladder as a prop? You could just say, can I borrow a ladder? And that's all. But there's a pretty new industrial aluminum ladder. They got a severe beating from a truck or something. No old man could step on an aluminum ladder so it breaks because
Like, was
so
he
old,
at the
so
top of it?
the aluminum
fell down?
ladder breaks when he steps on it because he's so old. No, it's just, oh, we have this. Maybe we can write a script around this prop. And that's why it turns so weird.
I like your theory. I am just confused because it's a weird lesson that we're learning from this. It's like, okay, you're helping an old man by giving him a ladder, but maybe you need to also be the one to go up the ladder for him because he's too old and because he needs a cane. And it's like, what is the point of this? Like, so the guy is already being helpful to older ones in the congregation, but he's just not being helpful enough. It's
Maybe
it's a weird point that they're trying to make. I don't even know why they're bothering.
The point is that the old man need help, and that's a nice thing. I'll give that to them. but the way they make
But he needs even more help than the guy was originally willing to give because that ladder was dangerous.
Yeah, and well, it ends nicely. They're gonna have dinner
Okay.
with the Youngs, so they will invite him to meet with the Youngs. I think they are the famous young ones, maybe.
The young ones.
Yeah. So,
Young ones.
but we'll see. They will protect themselves from the gutter monster with new glasses here.
Hi, honey.
Okay, but
What about lunch? The Youngs will be here in an hour.
I know. I picked up the items you asked for, but I can't just leave. It got me thinking about the neighborly Samaritan. When we see a need, we can't be like the priest and Levite who just walked away. The Samaritan cared enough to stop, examine the need, and take the time to help the poor man. A man he didn't even know.
Of course. Work what is good toward all, but especially toward those related to us in the faith.
I love you. And I have an idea. Let's not cancel with the Youngs. I'll go back and pick up my ladder and tell Hojin that I'll come back Saturday afternoon to help him clean out the gutters. It's such a blessing to be able to care for the needs of our brothers and feel their loving care for us.
Why didn't you call the old guy first?
Well, Watchtower, as usual, missed the point. So the Good Samaritan is obviously about helping someone of a different faith.
Yes.
And they continuously miss this point, and it drives me crazy.
And then on top of it, that's not a normal conversation to have with a spouse. Oh, that has never been a conversation I've had with anybody ever.
Those related to us in faith.
Maybe you're a bad person.
Also, I have an idea. Very weird. And this is nitpicky, but I don't like how they called it the neighborly Samaritan, because no, everybody in the entire world knows it's the Good Samaritan. That's the phrase. And it's also good. Like everybody knows that word, but neighborly is a very JW specific term. So like we've taken this thing that everybody knows and twisted it into this weird thing. And like Anne was saying, it's something that like we should help somebody in our own congregation, when the point of the Good Samaritan story is to help somebody, that we're not necessarily in the faith with. Ooh, yeah, this is insane. This is
because
really
the
weird.
Samaritans was, from Jesus' perspective, they were apostates. So this was a story about a Jewish man lying down, and one Jewish man, a second Jewish man, a third Jewish man, and then the apostate went the extra mile to help him. And then when they read this story and they quote the Bible on purpose, this is scripted, it's not ad libs. They say, be good to everyone, but especially to those in faith. That's the opposite of the scripture. How can Jehovah's Witnesses do that? They always claim that they always follow the Bible. It seems like they tricked me.
They have a way of doing that.
Yeah, so go apostates. That's literally the good guys in the story.
I'm irritated that the guy didn't call the old guy first, so he's worried about him getting up on the ladder. Instead, he called his wife and had a 10-minute conversation about a scripture about why he might need to help the guy with the ladder. Just like call the guy. Sorry, that wasn't important.
The groceries are getting cold. Nobody cares about the conversation he's trying to have. All he had to say is, hey, I have somebody extra I want to go ahead and bring to lunch. Okay, honey. Very, very simple. But no, we got to talk about the neighborly Samaritan and make everything a scriptural lesson.
Honey, drop what you're doing and break out your Bible.
And then when they both went ahead and said the final words together, like it was.
I mean, I'm a
never
married
knows.
man, and that's exactly what my marriage is like.
Oh my gosh. How can somebody stay with somebody that does that? Can you imagine having a normal conversation?
22.
See,
Sorry.
where are we now? I think I went back.
The theme of this year's regional convention.
Sorry, we have to go back to China, Korea.
Oh my God, there's so much.
Yeah, we have to speed up.
In this world,
I'm sorry.
people
You
feel
obviously can keep
unloved
going if I
and
need to hop off,
isolated
but-
for many reasons. We'll see this in the experience of Jason Senahonun.
Life was simple, I remember. I am Jason, and I am deaf. Growing up with this disability was hard. When I was younger, I saw people laughing and families showing affection. I just walked around the neighborhood and observed what was going on around me. I saw them walking and talking and wondered what that was all about. Everything was a mystery to me.
So I just wanted to say, typical deaf people are lonely, and that's why Watchtower seek them out. So it's a story about him being lonely and not having friends. But then I realized this is something Jehovah Witness kid can relate to. You walk around and so the story, it might be a true story, but it's the double message that we can relate to, that you feel you walk alone and then you get friends, but the friends are bad. Just wait and see. The friends are really bad. Like worldly people are.
But one day was a little different. I saw children my age having fun, and they wanted me to play with them. I said to myself, me? I can't believe they actually wanted me to be with them. For once, I felt welcomed, and that was how we became the best of friends. Time went by so fast. We grew up spending time and discovering new things together. I was having so much fun with their company that even questionable acts seemed right to me. I learned how to smoke. They taught me how to drink alcohol to our heart's content. It felt like it was the best time of our lives. I thought everything we did was how things were actually supposed to be.
Okay, so
Do you
people
drink
just
alcohol to your heart's content?
He was taught how to drink to his heart's content.
And I guess everybody in the world just thinks that smoking harmful chemicals into your lungs is the natural order.
Yes. Everybody in the world thinks that smoking cigarettes is good and you should drink until you're sick.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's what everybody in the world thinks.
Oh,
Yeah, but
heck yeah.
it's always fun when they talk about worldly people and drinking, because Jehovah Witnesses do drink, and on Bethel they drink a lot. So they had like, you taught me how to drink a terrible drug. No, you have to say, what's wrong? Well, he drank to his heart's content. Jehovah Witnesses don't do that. This is a guy that can't read and write, but he drank to his heart's content.
No, it's a good point about how the Watchtower exploits deaf people, though. I've heard that from people who used to be in deaf congregations who have left.
Yeah, so this was on a search out for deaf people.
I was hesitant at first, but they were very kind and friendly. They educated me. They even taught me how to sign my name. Eventually, I studied the Bible with them. I learned different truths from the Bible. Finally came to know Jehovah, the only true God. I learned the things Jehovah liked. I realized that what I did before wasn't pleasing to Jehovah. My love for Jehovah grew deeper, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I started to attend Christian meetings, and I met new friends in the congregation. The Bible changed my life. I gave my all to Jehovah and decided to dedicate myself to Him. It brought me nothing but real happiness.
It gave me nothing but real happiness.
Oh boy.
You know, if the Mormons had come around and done the same thing, then he'd be a Mormon, right? Like, it's just like he just needed a community that was healthy and accepting. And so
Yes, that's what everybody needs in their life. And it's sad because Jehovah's Witnesses don't only prey on deaf people. They prey on anybody who is in pain. Anybody who's in pain, anybody who is emotionally hurt. That's what Watchtower wants to prey on. They want to love bomb them and make them feel accepted so that they can have more experiences like this.
Yeah. And that's how cults work. And they especially find people who are at a low point or are marginalized and are, you know, in a place in their life where they need something, they need some kind of structure. And that's when they get you.
Yeah,
they
but
say, come work for our real estate company.
You know, he really had to backstab his friends. He said, like, this is my best friends. We were my best friends. And now he really had to help the Watchtower pick up actors that reminds him of his friends and walk past them and do, I don't know what you Jehovah do. That's
it's
not
kind of
nice
weird
to his friends. He had to abandon his friends. And in the Watchtower propaganda, he got new friends, and they were, surprise, surprise, girls. So it sounds like he traded up, you know.
Well, like, I hate to say it, but
it was
on
like
my
that.
end, my wife's got dinner ready, and I might have to hop off here.
That's okay.
It was really great being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, this is great. Let's see. Then I'm outnumbered here of ladies. So, but
sorry, you're on your own, pal.
I know I'm terribly scary, but
yeah, but that's okay. Okay, thank you, Jake. Let's keep going here.
We delight in the variety of cultures represented in our brotherhood. But as we'll see in our next segment, we have to be vigilant not to put our local culture ahead of Bible principles.
Culture has a very big effect on us. In our culture, young ones are not trusted very much. They are not given responsibility. I have seen the effect of the culture inside the congregation, especially when the question of giving younger ones more privileges of service or assignments came up. When it was discussed among the elders, it would not really be considered. And so the desire would be for him to wait a little bit longer, mature a little more, gain more life experience. I also thought the same way. When I look back now, I realize that it really wasn't right, because Jehovah's thinking isn't like that. In time, my thinking changed because I realized Jehovah's way of thinking. The videos produced by Jehovah's organization and what I watched in them helped my view to change. I could actually see what a young brother or a young elder could do. In the past, we used to focus on experience. I would too, but now Jehovah's viewpoint is more important than just experience. Jehovah doesn't only focus on experience, but also on spiritual qualities. I came to realize that. Of course, the influence of the culture doesn't go away overnight. We still need to work hard on it. We still have to change, because traces of the culture can still be left over. But I realize we definitely need to get rid of it. Now I'm really pleased to serve with those young brothers, to talk with them, and to see their potential as Jehovah sees it. We can also see that Jehovah is very pleased too. Jehovah is overjoyed. He's proud to see what those young brothers do.
Okay. I have so many problems with this because, first off, I know for a fact that the organization and many congregations and many elder bodies would specifically not allow younger men without experience to be able to have positions in the congregation. And they're blaming this on culture, for starters. Yeah. Then he backtracks after saying, culturally, like, this is a big problem and that's why we viewed it that way, then he admits that it was an issue, that viewpoint kind of also permeated the organization itself. But now Jehovah's thinking. We're progressing with what Jehovah thinks and feels, guys, but now he wants us to include these younger brothers in these assignments. So we're being just the best people ever and not focusing on the problem, which was our culture.
Yeah, it just screams that they don't have enough qualified brothers right now. To me, this says we don't have enough people
literally
that have responsibilities, and we're getting pretty desperate. So we will take pretty much anyone as long as you're not horrible and an apostate.
My personal moderator recently had a meeting at his Kingdom Hall where they had absolutely everybody come to the Kingdom Hall. Young little kids, little brothers as well, to go ahead and tell everybody how much they need, them in the organization. They are desperate for help.
Yeah. But it's interesting that this old man, he said, it used to be this way and it was our culture. We have to work hard to remove our culture. The culture is bad. I can still see influence of the culture. It's like, and he knows what Jehovah is thinking since he's been watching cartoons on the internet made of JW. It's like Jehovah. It's obvious that the need of the watchtower has changed, and the direction that watchtower used to give no longer applies. And then they say, "Well, it's your culture." And
yes, they're
literally Turkey, where there are almost no Jehovah Witnesses, so no one can really fact check if this is true or not. If they would say that, well, the American culture, well, then people will feel that's not true. We're like 1 million elders here, and we all remember when the circuit overseer, we shouldn't appoint anyone under 30, and now you say it's our culture. So let's pick Turkey and say they need to understand Jehovah's thoughts by watching cartoons on jaw.org.
It's just complete deflection from the organization. Again, they can never be wrong. And when they do want to bring up a fallacy of something that they've done incorrectly and move towards the new light, they go ahead and blame something that's completely unrelated, like culture.
Yeah, and it always is out of necessity as well. I mean, it's the same thing with the generations teaching. They're like, oh crap, everyone died. We got to change this real quick.
Oh yeah, that's not gonna help us for much longer. So let's go ahead and make a word salad to feed the people.
But it's not really Jehovah's thoughts either that a young man should get responsibility. You can't find it in the Bible. It's just they say it's Jehovah's thoughts because it's been in Watchtower that they need young elders. There's no place in the Bible that says that young people should get a lot of responsibility. And there's a lot of place in the Bible that says you shouldn't get a lot of responsibility when you're young, literally many times. So it's just they dictate what Jehovah's thinking. That's interesting.
It's good for each of us to do a prayerful self-examination. If we always put Bible principles ahead of our local culture, we strengthen our precious Christian unity.
So Bible culture, that's what he decided.
So after
that's why when he talk here, Watchtower, they want you to go out of your comfort zone. Why did the governing body cross the road? Because it was your personal border, and then he'll step on it. This guy, he has to tell that his culture is wrong. But if you see the word, it's they're using word like you should crush your culture, you should remove it, you should tear it away, and you should do things you're not comfortable with. It's kind of
experienced the special convention in Ukraine and returned home, we decided we need to consider this more as a family worship project. We realized we did have to make some adjustments. We realized we did want to do more. So we had to set specific goals to be able to strip away our previous definition of hospitality and start extending it beyond what we were comfortable with. It takes work to continually break free from the limits that we might set for ourselves. And it was something we realized we need to make some changes if we were going to maintain Jehovah's view of hospitality moving forward.
Is it allowed to have some kind of personal integrity? You should strip away until you're strip away what you're comfortable with and work hard to strip away your own culture because it's wrong.
Yeah, strip away your
You don't really have to
culture.
have any personal space. Like, this is my personal space. I don't want to invite Ukrainians on every Sunday because I don't want to. No, you should chip away on your personal boundaries.
Yeah, strip away your personal boundaries, make sure that you completely disregard your culture and put on the new personality so you can be like everybody else in the organization.
Yeah.
We'll learn what past members of the governing body did to stay connected with and serve Jehovah's people everywhere.
Oh, Lord, help us
The
all.
governing body has always felt a keen responsibility to live up to Jesus' command, feed my lambs, shepherd my little sheep. Today's technology makes the governing body feel like family. But did the worldwide brotherhood in times past enjoy such a strong bond with the governing body?
Let's go back to January of 1945. Brothers Knorr and friends set out on a tour of Latin America that ended up with conventions in North America. It took 4 months. The purpose was to visit branches already established, to organize new branches, to forward the movement of the kingdom preaching work.
Brother Knorr loved the brotherhood, especially missionaries and branch personnel. And he would take an opportunity of a 15 or 20-minute stopover in a train station or at an airport to give encouragement or to help them to advance the preaching work.
Brother Norm had deep concern for the welfare of the brothers in the war-torn countries of Europe. Brother Knorr and Henschel, they traveled to Britain, France, Switzerland, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Scandinavia in November 1945.
I like the show. It's not really real. They just put it in the background because they do it several times. When you follow direction from the governing body, it goes well. But what do you think about the
I feel like it's just laying a continuous foundation for the governing body as God. That's the only thing that I really feel at this point. We're supposed to respect the governing body as we would respect God.
Yeah, and these are the same governing body that lived at a very different time. Watchtower was a very different religion. In fact, this was around the same time, just a couple of years later, they decided that excommunication and shunning was, unbiblical. So if people followed them at that point and it was unbiblical to shun, how could they be right and our current governing body be right when they have a different teaching?
Yeah. So this segment was very long, established like the governing body. And I think it's about the war in Ukraine. They show a lot like the governing body take care of the war. They go to war zones and fix everything. Just trust in the governing body.
Also, I really loved the beginning imagery that they put in that. I actually just thought about it again, where they put the Lord's evening meal. Wasn't that the picture that was being shown for like the first memorial or whatever, as those original apostles were the governing body. So we're just carrying on tradition right now. That's what the progression felt like.
Yeah. So this segment was super long. I cut down a lot, but I like when they add those graphs in the background. Looks like they were done somewhere. It's just a cartoon that shows that increase.
Yeah, and they're doing that just to make you continuously think of the positive growth that's happening in the organization.
Yeah.
Look
But
at
they
what
always
we're
do it
able
like
to do.
Following direction, growth. Following in direction, growth. Like I said.
Yeah. No,
But
you're
if there's
very
some
right.
Jehovah Witnesses watching this, I give you a quiz. When did the governing body start to exist? It was in 1976. So the whole segment is fake because they want to say like, oh, we were elected in 1919, the governing body, and then through apostolic succession, we still are the governing body. But they didn't really exist.
No.
It was the president back then. So it's never too late to rewrite history.
Right?
1945. Imagine just few months after World War ended, the railroad track was destroyed, bridges were destroyed, so there were no
Rutherford is coming.
good connections between the cities. It was not a tourist travel, it was really a hard work. But
After visiting the friends in war-torn Europe, then brothers Knorr and Henschel embarked on a very ambitious and extensive 47,000-mile tour. They visited some lands where there were few or even no witnesses. If no branch operated in a country they visited, they connected with the local congregations in private homes. They attended their meetings, and they accompanied the local publishers to the homes of interested ones for group meetings. And they often rented venues for public meetings. Brothers Knorr and Henschel went on the streets to advertise the talk that evening. And then Brother Knorr himself even rode with bicycle parades to advertise his talks. And these meetings attracted hundreds of interested ones, even though in one city there was a threatening note that was received.
Well, things don't always turn out as planned.
Now, why don't they? If there's some Jehovah Witness watching this, why don't they turn out this plan? Because you're not selling a religion. You're supposed to be exceptional.
And everything's supposed to be happening under Jehovah's direction. So if everything that's happening has Jehovah's blessing, then why do some things just not work out?
Yeah, every situation they have two forms of logic. So if everything's going good, it's Jehovah. If, let's say, the numbers start decreasing, the love of the love of the greater number is beginning to cool off. And you know what? This is just a fulfillment of Bible prophecy. See, we told you so. Armageddon's coming either way.
I think they should have. You know, the point is not like, oh, we're slightly better than the Catholics. You're supposed to be exceptional. So. But a lot in this video is like very much like, if you're living in a war zone, Ukraine, if you're living in a war zone, just stay united. The governing body is on top of the situation. We've always been. I had to cut out a lot, but Rutherford is traveling around Europe, solving World War II and starvation in Africa and everything.
Brother Knorr and Brother Henschel had a service tour of countries in Africa. One of those was Nigeria, and they were to give talks at two conventions. One of those conventions was 400 miles away and involved a road trip. So they got off to an early start at 3:30 in the morning. On the end of the trip, they started to have car problems. Those car problems turned into a grueling 18-hour delay, and they realized they weren't going to make the convention. So they decided to go back to the branch in Lagos. But the return trip took 24 hours through jungle roads and additional car problems. They get back to the branch, they take a very brief rest, and they're on to the next branch.
That's encouraging how?
And could this be laying the scene for them to start pressuring people to get off Zoom and get to the Kingdom Hall? They're like, look, these people traveled like 400 miles and almost died 3 times. You can definitely make it 10 minutes to your local Kingdom Hall instead of turning on a screen.
That's definitely where they're heading towards, because I have physically, I know the progression in my family and in the local congregation setting. Right now, it went from it's completely okay to stay home, be safe, and attend from Zoom. And now all of a sudden, it's not okay. And the pressure is insane to get people back physically into the Kingdom Halls again. So I would not be surprised by that.
But I this segment with all those clips, it's kind of fun to watch, but it's very much that the governing body is so exciting. It's like Indiana Jones / Rutherford / Brother Knorr. the travel around Europe, solving crises, checking on the brothers. But it's also showing about how much work the governing body do. You get it's like an overwhelmingly long segment about how much Watchtower do that you don't know and how cool they are.
And try to foster appreciation for what they're doing.
Yeah, you watch this and you're like, oh, I didn't know they were such superheroes.
A request to hold a large special meeting in Athens in 1952 was not granted by the authorities because of religious interference. But not wanting to miss an opportunity to encourage the Greek brothers, Brother Knorr came up with an alternate plan. He and Brother Henschel would take taxis to the homes of local brothers where they would give a talk for approximately 20 minutes. Then they would go on to another home, even though they risked arrest because of meeting together. They were able to meet with 905 of our Greek brothers. In describing that day, Brother Knorr wrote, "It was one of the most blessed experiences of our lives."
Pointless fluff. But it feels so pointless to listen to this. It's just completely putting on a pedestal the governing body.
The reason why I had to cut out a lot, and maybe I should cut out, but this was a super long segment about how cool the governing body is, and the reason why I wanted this is because as a human rights activist, I think Watchtower, the Jehovah Witnesses in Greece had their rights violated. I'm 100% sure. But if you think about it from my perspective, that's an American that came. He did not have his rights violated. When they put a Greek brother or sister in jail, that's a human rights violation. But when an American that represent an American business come to Greece, because he had the opportunity to stay home, that's my point. He don't have the same citizen rights when he, when he come there, with the purpose of the trip is to violate Greek legislations. I actually don't feel sorry for Brother Knorr if he would have been arrested and thrown in jail. It's still wrong, but it's kind of, why did you come?
I also wanted to say I was absolutely not saying the editing that you've done here or the sections you've put in are pointless. I am angry at the video, not what you're trying to show me. Just the whole broadcast in itself feels so pointless and angering to me. I was not saying that about you.
I was cutting it down. I'm kind of angry at myself because it took longer and our friend Jake had to move on to the other side. But,
and also, I hate to say it too, the problem is we actually had some things planned for this evening.
Brother Franz visited.
So I'll have to leave shortly here too. And I'm just trying to stay as long as I can.
Well, how much more is there?
I do have an invitation clipboard thing here. So if someone wants to call in, that's not a crazy person. You can actually call in and can
Spain many times, but during the 50s, our work was under ban. Brother Franz wanted to encourage the local brothers, but he was especially concerned for their safety. On this one event, Brother Franz and his driver decided to park their car near the home of their host, a certain Brother Garcia, who was a mechanic. So with the hood of the car open, they asked a neighbor, "Is there a mechanic in the area?" Of course, he was referred to Brother Garcia. Brother Garcia then looked at the car and said, "Your car needs to come into my shop." That was the opportunity for Brother Franz to meet some local brothers and sisters. When it was time to walk to the meeting later that day, Brother Franz decided to wear the beret and a sheepskin coat typical for the area so that he would safely blend in with his brothers.
That's actually, I just took it because it's fun, because Americans do this. Like, we have army personnel and they have a standing order to try to blend in. And it's absolutely ridiculous. We can spot them far away. Imagine if you're going to meet a brother with a shop, you can just go there. You can just drive there.
Yeah.
And if someone asks, well, I had a puncture or something. But instead, they open on the street, start talking American. Americans are very loud and say,
Yes.
hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I have car troubles. This is nothing conspicuous here. I'm just an American looking for, yes, nothing conspicuous here. They make so much noise while being non-conspicuous.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
That's exactly how it is.
I've spoken to American soldiers, and they do all these things like try to speak Norwegian and walk. We know who they are, but they have the standing order to be act like the locals, and it's kind of fun to see them try to act like the locals.
Nothing's cringier than watching someone try to speak a language that they just don't know, but they're trying so hard. I feel like Jehovah's Witnesses do that a lot. Like they'll learn 3 sentences in Spanish, and then they'll start trying to preach to Spanish people. And that can actually be offensive sometimes. You're like, oh, you must just speak Spanish, for instance, and you just start trying to talk to them in a way that you think will appeal to them, but it's really weird.
Yeah.
But the Americans have this idea about Caucasian, Latino, Black, Asian. So when they come to Europe, they see us as Caucasian, and they think, I just put on some shirt and some strudel noodles and say hubba hubba, and I blend in. You don't. You absolutely don't. That's why it's fun from my perspective.
On a service tour of Africa in 1963, Brother Henschel attended the convention at Gabarna, Liberia. Suddenly, soldiers invaded the convention. They arrested Brother Henschel and others. He was mistreated, beaten with a rifle butt to the point where he thought he was going to die. But he remained on the scene to encourage and assist the brothers to be faithful, to avoid compromise. And when finally he was released, instead of going home, he completed his assignment to visit other branches, and upon return, never acted the part of a hero or a martyr. It was just the cost of doing the Lord's business.
In this very selfish and divided world, this is not a small thing.
I couldn't help that.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the most triggering things I heard. You did well to point it out.
The governing body in the old days, that didn't exist until 1976, but they did not boast or toot their own horn or... you get my point.
Yeah, everything is just painful with these broadcasts. Yeah. It just gives me a new level of depression anytime I subject myself to one of them.
Yeah, do you remember when it was the faithful and discreet slaves, and they were kind of in the background, using discretion, not showing their faces all the time?
Now they don't need to be discreet.
Yeah, they're not discreet anymore. Indiscreet, is that a word? I don't know. It should be just for them. They're the opposite of discreet, whatever that word may be. There's out there. They're like, praise us.
They're obviously seeking their own glory. I can
worship us.
Well, the headquarters representatives wanted the best for delegates to a convention.
This is the cool one. I think they are because they made this super long segment about how wonderful the governing body is. And when they do that, it's often they try to hide something in between that sooner come out later anyway. Listen carefully to this.
Brothers Knorr and Henschel were known to personally inspect venues and even negotiate contracts. In more recent times, Brother Jairus personally visited hotels to make sure that there was a proper standard of comfort and cleanliness. He even tested out the beds.
I'm sorry.
He's like, I don't see any cockroaches or pubes. Must be safe enough for people to sleep on.
So
I took that a little differently, but
so the hotels, you negotiate price with them. That always open up for corruption. When you negotiate the price for hundreds of thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses, and the hotel and say, okay, I'm here talking about 100,000 clients. You negotiate the price with me. I'm here alone without my wife, testing the beds.
That's where my mind went.
Testing the beds. If you would come visiting me in Norway, and I could negotiate the price on your behalf, and you find out that the hotel actually gave me a free night, then you're the one paying for the night. And I say, well, I just needed to test your bed without my wife present.
Oh my.
Yeah, I can see how it goes that direction too.
Yeah, I think they are dumping information that might be in the big archive Because when they had to open the big archive, the reason why they have the big archive closed, most people believe, is because Jarosh is in the archive big time. So if they had to open the archive, they really need to little by little say what Brother Jarosh has been doing in a nice way. To, dribble off the information little by little. So now we know that Watchtowers, basically Watchtower been paying, that he got free nights on hotel to test the beds and the mattresses. So we know that it's a nice mattress. Call me paranoid.
Now it's time for our new music video. It highlights the many blessings of unity.
Calling out to all our brothers, calling out for all to hear. We share just one faith, one God. We're united wherever we're found, speaking the language of truth. We join our voices with one joyful sound. Whatever we face, we're not on our own. Together we're never alone. Together, united, together we belong. Together, united, together we are strong. Together, united, as one we carry on. Side by side and hand in hand together. Together we are strong.
So the original footage was a lot of stock footage and hugging people with all this national
Love bombing.
yeah, but also they really emphasize on look at this one has really weird clothing, and this is the convention where white women from Texas were dressed up as Pocahontas with
And
feathers.
that's
and
horrible. That's
Yeah.
horrible.
But it's kind of we have to really, really, really distract you from the fact that we decide everything, and we give you something that you are allowed to decide. What do you say, Heather? You're from the South. Do you walk with dressed as Pocahontas sometimes? Is this a part of your culture?
Are you muted?
Now we can hear you.
No, we don't just go dressing up as Native Americans, and worst case scenario we're wearing like cowboy hats or something, or boots. I do the boots thing, not the hat.
Wow,
there's no like that's
No, it's weird,
like,
but
it kind of ticks me off too, because they're like, together is where we belong. Is that what I heard? But they keep everybody at like arm's length.
But if you listen to the lyrics, it's basically they just repeat what they want you to believe. Obviously, it's not like a song; it's more like a lecture. So the whole point with all the national costumes is to show that you are allowed to choose. You are allowed to have your personality. It's this narrow, but the narrow thing you are allowed to do is dress like a more on a convention. Let's take it up a notch. So you actually create the idea, like listen to the words here.
The song is like hypnosis, honestly.
But like, how are they dressing as like?
It's true, and we know that we're not all the same.
We're not all the same.
Different in things we may choose.
Different in things we may choose.
Maintaining peace for the sake of God's name.
I love when I find out people have like different fruits than I do. It's just so different, and it's just amazingly diverse experience. when I find out.
Different in what we may choose. There are things you are allowed to choose, but that's
And
not
notice
freedom
they
when
centered
they
it around
say,
food because that's all you got left.
yeah.
There's so much of like clothing and hairstyles and like jewelry and things that can be centered around like some old belief or some otherworldly belief that's from like thousands of years ago, non-Judeo-Christian stuff. And if any of that is part of your culture, it's gone. That's why everybody's eating freaking food, man. That's all they've got left. They've lost it all. Like in reality, they shouldn't have been dressing as Native Americans because the hair thing is sacred, the beadwork is sacred. Like there's so many things about that whole outfit that is just completely rooted in something that they're not allowed to be a part of.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's degrading and offensive imagery, but of course
there's that too.
But what if the sister in that was on the convention in Melbourne was more than one of American sisters dressed up some kind of Native American thing? And what if they went home to the home congregation and went to the next pioneer school dressed as Pocahontas with a feather in their hair? Would it then be like, oh, you have your personal freedom and your culture and we respect all cultures? No, you would lose your privilege. So it's just when there's this big international convention, we should display that we have freedom. For 3 days, you have freedom in what area? This area. Do you think the Australian Native Americans, because they're Australian Native Americans, do you think they came in their costumes? No, of course not. They would not be allowed in. But a Caucasian woman can come dressed as Pocahontas, is okay. But if you would be a native Australian person dressed in some color, no, you can't come in. You're half naked, Go away. Get yourself a white shirt and a tie. Very European. That's your culture. That's acceptable.
You all have to convert.
Yeah.
Together, united, together we are strong. Together, united, as one we carry on. Side by side and hand in hand together.
We had so much fun for the protest.
We are strong. Together, we are strong. Together, we are strong.
So I did, you noticed Samuel Hurd?
Yes.
I left him in exactly where he were. There were a lot of different clips and a lot of different things. And I have to replace clips and criticize everything. Otherwise, it would be a copyright violation. So that's one of the reasons why I put in. But Samuel Hurd liked to brand himself as a strong man. He talked about war, that he used to be a warrior, and he again going to be a warrior. And when they make videos, they put him, when they say the word love and they show a picture of him, or strong. Can you imagine how embarrassing that must be for the other governing body members, that they have a meeting and they said, well, when we talk about this music, when they say the word strong, I want them to show a picture of me with my face. That's a very specific request someone did, and it's probably him.
Yeah, it's kind of cringe.
And
They
him and
have
his
their
battle
own
grunts and
ideas
the
of how they want to be portrayed, and he obviously want to be the strong man, like physically strong one. He talks about being a warrior in heaven.
well, their first assignment is going to be destroying God's enemies. So that means Armageddon's coming, right? Like their talks don't make sense when you think about it. Like the first thing, their first assignment, they go directly to heaven when they die. So their first assignment in one of his talks is to start destroying God's enemies.
Yeah.
So that means when the governing body dies, that means Armageddon's starting. But they didn't think this through when he wrote his talk.
Yeah. So
that's another topic. I'm sorry. I'm getting
no, it's okay. But the whole video is like, together we are strong, and they go through all the points. Your culture is wrong, but you're allowed to have this narrow where the Pocahontas, and then together we are strong, and then pictures of him. It's like he's really out of context about, but they put
Well, they
him
do the
there for.
multicultural thing out of context too. They can't do that on the normal daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just weird when he wants to be portrayed as
Now
a big,
we'd like to
strong
give you
person.
a glimpse of the convention's feature Bible drama, Jehovah Guides Us in the Way of Peace.
There is a God in the heavens who is a revealer of secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what is to happen in the final part of the days.
The divine dream that Daniel interprets for King Nebuchadnezzar constitutes a prophecy crucial for the lasting peace of mankind.
Jehovah knows the course of history centuries, even millenniums in advance.
And as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom will be partly strong and partly fragile.
Yeah, it's just one clip left now. So this is the convention. Do you have any comment of that? The next comment about
Well,
tower?
I don't understand about Jehovah knowing things centuries in advance, because if he really knows the date of everything in terms of the end times, why do they keep predicting falsely when those end times are going to come?
Yeah, I really liked. Yeah, continue.
Jehovah's foresight is selective, of course. You know, so he can just pick and choose what he wants to see in the future to whatever's convenient for him.
Right.
So just because he's able to do that doesn't mean he's sharing that with his organization, obviously.
Right. Once again, you just can logic your way out of it no matter which way you look at it.
And that's how they designed the system.
You remember the statue? It starts with Babylon, and then it's okay. So Greek, the Romans, and then it's the Anglo-American. So it goes from Greek, Roman, Anglo-American. But when it's the king of the north, it goes Greek, Roman, Russia. Shouldn't it follow the same track? No, then it doesn't fit us, so we have to change it.
And the king of the north hasn't always even been Russia. The narrative changes depending on how the world's changing.
Yeah, if the religion was true, then China would be now the dominating. China is bigger than Russia in any way, obviously. So then China would be. Oh, you heard it first at Goat-like Personality. China is king of the north. So this last clip now. Let's see.
He has led his people in the past. So when he prophesies that he'll lead his people to real, lasting peace in the future, this isn't a prediction. It's a guarantee. The peace we seek is certain under God's kingdom.
Yeah.
That's not peaceful music.
No, it's
Well, no,
not.
and they also have them like in the middle of that field again.
Huh?
They also have them in the middle of that field again.
Yeah, they are
do.
using a lot of
They
old.
reuse some imagery.
So, sisters, were you encouraged? Oh, I'm a brother again. Haha. You have to do what I tell you.
Well, I have a headache, and I think my brain is revolting due to how many brain cells I've lost. But it was
Same.
worth it. So it's okay. It's a righteous headache.
Yeah. What was your favorite? There's so much to choose between.
I missed part of it, but I like the backdrop of all the protesters that you put in. That was my favorite part. They made
I
some
love
really
that.
nice
It was such a smooth transition. You literally tricked me when I was looking at it. I'm like, wait a minute.
I think my favorite part was definitely where they just put one tiny clip of Pillowgate in there, just randomly. They're like, I don't know
Yeah.
what they said, but I was like, I know that's Pillowgate.
Yeah, but my favorite. There's a lot of depressing stuff when you really start seeing how they work and how they manipulate. Like the court case, they're like, well, there's a difference between you have to forgive a small thing, but it's encouragement, because that's sinister. But when they flushed the information about Jarosh, that is flushing information. That segment with all that we go to Africa, we go there, it was super long. Why? When they have a super long, super confusing with a lot of pictures and cars and planes moving in all directions, and then just he even checked the matrices. Let's move on now. It sounds like just a funny story that he checked the matrices, but they flushed that information and they tried to hide it. And it was just like, oh, sometimes he checked the quality of the matrices, but he was sleeping on a hotel.
I think my
Checking
favorite
the
part.
quality of the matrices without his wife present in a hotel in a situation that normally would be a situation of possibilities of allegedly corruption, that the hotel paid for stuff for him.
I think my favorite part of the broadcast was the complete erasure of all culture, and just a complete submission to the governing body. That was great, fantastic, loved that.
Yeah, Christ is not
Very
divided
sarcastic.
because the governing body died for us. I think that's the conclusion.
I love how they praise themselves while pretending that it's not themselves. They're like, look at what the governing body is doing. Also, I'm a member of the governing body, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're testing mattresses and fixing broken cars. Yeah.
Also, I hate to say this, I am going to have to go now. Thank you so much for the invite. It has been amazing to meet all of you.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
We have
nice
to
meeting
stop
you.
now. So
But thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
yeah,
Have a good night.
what do you think about my concept here with the cutting things like this?
I like it. I think it was really well done.
Yeah, I maybe have to
Looking.
cut more next time because it took way more time than I thought. I cut it, down to like half an hour, but then we had fun and spoke so much. Maybe I spoke a lot. I have a tendency to do that.
I think it was worth it.
Yeah, that's why I tried this. I can invite other people and I can learn to shut up because it's not my strong suit to shut up, but I'm trying.
But you have good points.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so we'll let the ladies get their last word. What do you say, Heather?
I missed a good part of it, but their standards for blessings are really low, and yeah, their culture is all about food. I think their culture is goodie night. Their culture is goodie night.
Goodie night.
Yeah. I think that I need to get going because I have a governing body to worship now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, and see you in paradise. Let's end.